All right, lots of big deals going on. OpenAI and NVIDIA have announced a $100 billion deal, and this deal involves data centers. So NVIDIA is going to invest in OpenAI, part of the data centers that they're going to be building across the country. They're looking at a capacity of about 10 gigawatts. The first tranche of $10 billion is going to be made over to OpenAI, and then over the next set of years, those will follow up. This according to sources speaking to Bloomberg. Both Sam Altman and Jensen Huang have been quoted on this particular deal. It's part of the AI story. Jensen Huang saying this investment and infrastructure partnership marked the next leap forward, deploying 10 gigawatts to power the next era of intelligence. We're going to ask our guest about what that means for energy prices. Meanwhile, Sam Altman's talking about computing power, right? Inference. Everything starts with compute. Compute infrastructure will be the basis for the economy of the future. Let's bring in our guest joining us from Cape Town, Per Lagerstrom, 30 years in venture building, consulting, the pioneer of behavior tech, ex-McKinsey. He was also the keynote speaker at the just concluded Insurance Meets Technology Forum 4.0 here in Lagos, Nigeria. Per, it's nice to see you again. Thank you for joining us all the way from Cape Town. I wanted to get your thoughts on this deal between NVIDIA and OpenAI, what you make of it.
Look, it's good to see you again. I was an amazing time in Lagos last week. Look, I mean, first of all, I'm not going to be the one that's second guessing the valuations on OpenAI. I might actually in a little while. But there is such an arms race going on here. AI is such an enormous force multiplier, and everybody's racing to build the next generation of models. And in my businesses, I've been using all of them across all the stacks, including the open source ones. And it's changing business, it's changing everything we do. But it also has, I wrote this, all the signs of a bubble as well. So even Sam Altman himself said a couple of weeks ago, he had no doubt that some investors going to get burnt in this. But look, it's changing life for us, and it's changing businesses as we speak, yeah? And it's very disruptive, but it's far from perfect as we stand, and it's not obvious that these valuations can stand the scrutiny of time.
That's an actually excellent point. What do you make about the energy requirements? I mean, they're talking about 10 gigawatts of energy here for these data centers. Any worries that could drive up energy costs for the residents in those areas?
Look, I mean, 10 gigawatt is an extraordinary amount of electricity to power these things, right? So you're going to get, if they don't match it with power plants, straight from the beginning, you're going to get energy market dislocations. Whether it drives up local prices or not, it's going to depend on regulators, I think. But there's no doubt that it's shifting supply-demand balances in all these countries. And we've been electrifying the planet quickly for climate change reasons, but a lot of that renewable that's coming on stream is going to get sucked up by these data centers, right? So I think we're going to see a lot of changes in local electricity markets.
Now, there's also the pharmaceutical side. Pfizer making an acquisition of Metsera for about 4.9 billion. It could rise to 7.3 billion. And also in the brewery space, Heineken, to buy a company in Latin America. Can you speak? I mean, you've been in this advised a lot of deals in the past. Can you speak to the role you see in mergers and acquisitions? Playing across different sectors of business going forward.
Look, I mean, there's nothing new here. The dynamics always to change. The same. If you want to step change your business, if you want to access new markets, if you want to access capacity or talent, or if you want to access scale and synergies, you're going to have to do acquisitions. Otherwise, you're not moving fast enough. The key for the shareholders, of course, is that these are value accretive as opposed to just bundling various businesses together, right? So the proof's going to be in the pudding for all of these, whether these numbers are the right numbers or not, right? But it's, people are deal hungry because they want to grow and they want to grow fast, right? And the world is changing around us, and you brought AI into this conversation. And the same is true here.
Thank you so much for that. Now, look, going back to the insurance industry, we had the Insurance Industry Reform Act passed in Nigeria. As I've already mentioned, you were the keynote speaker at IMT 4.0. What role do you see M&A playing in Nigeria's insurance space, or Africa's insurance space, if you want to go take it that far?
Look, I think the answer is a bit more nuanced there. So I think what you find is AI is fundamentally changing the way businesses and startups are being valued. So that's created a particular dynamic. The incumbents have really woken up and realized that they're going to take AI in, and they need to bring both productivity improvement into the core as well as accessing new sources of growth. And for that, they're going to need to do M&As. So I think you're going to see quite a lot of M&A activity in a place like Nigeria in the coming years. And the natural buyers in some ways of the startups and the scale-ups are going to be incumbents. They need to change faster than they could otherwise do.
And you've talked about, I wanted you to share this with our audience because you said this at the event. You said Nigerian firms should not sell insurance, they should sell solutions. Can you flesh that out for us?
Look, wherever you go in the world, insurance tends to be a grudge purchase. I don't really want to buy insurance before the risk event happens, which kind of defeats the whole idea of insurance. So consumers are hesitant to buy it, which is why the whole industry then actually trying to sell it to them. And it becomes a very push-based kind of approach. And consumers are actually much more likely to buy insurance if it's bundled in a solution. So rather than buying an insurance on my cell phone, I might take a bundling of a subscription on my cell phone where I pay per month, bundled with risk and bundled with data and airtime. Yeah. Suddenly I have a solution to a communications problem with insurance embedded. That is a much better sell of insurance than it is trying to sell a standalone.
Gotcha. Now, you already mentioned the role AI is going to play in insurance, and you talked about the need for M&A. And one of the questions that was thrown out during that keynote, your keynote at IMTO, was whether or not AI will displace players in the insurance space. Do you think it will lead to layoffs, like if an AI is able to sell insurance on the phone to an individual?
Look, AI is not the first disruption we're facing in our history. So, and disruptions of this magnitude leads to dislocations. We spoke about the energy market earlier. And it is also true that whatever can be automated will be automated. So administrative tasks will be replaced by AI. But history also tells us that actually innovation and disruption needs to new opportunities. And I think this is going to open up a lot of job opportunities for people, but there's undoubtedly going to be some roles that's going to disappear. But I think it's more of a shift than a net reduction, in my opinion.
Per, let me get one more question to throw at you. So how do you see the insurance space playing out going forward? I mean, with what you've experienced and with your time on the African continent, going forward, how do you see things playing out?
I think insurance in a couple of years is going to be very, very different from now. And there's two primary reasons for that. The AI helps us understand and price risk with much more precision at the individual level than we could ever do before. And the second is that the value chain is being broken up. So advice, marketplace, and product manufacturing in insurance used to be completely vertically integrated. That is no longer going to be the case. And the reshuffling of this building block is going to lead to a fundamentally different insurance landscape, let alone then the bundling and then the mix with other industries like telecom, retail, and banking.
Paris Lagerstrom, CEO Yellowspot, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us this morning. We really appreciate it. We got to have you back on the show. I really like your insights.